Big bad boys from outer space. Ultimate muscle. Here to body slam the human race. Ultimate muscle. Wrestlers race to our defense with strength and speed and flatulence. Ultimate muscle. Ultimate muscle. Heroes join the operation from different planets and different nations. There's an intergalactic federation to monitor the situation. Catch each and every confrontation. Only broadcast on this station. Ultimate muscle, ultimate muscle. Well, up on Muscle Planet, behind the mask they hid, the face of our new champion, the king there had a kid. Muscle has the power, but he's also kinda nuts. This guy could save the universe if he only had some guts. Ultimate muscle, ultimate muscle. Welcome, everyone, to Ultimate Muscle, a retrospective. Ahoy hoy gang, if this is your first time with us, welcome! And if you're joining us from a previous video, or say our shout out in that one bloobs video, Hey, we love to see it and I hope you're doing well. Here we are, the next grand part of our Kinnikuman journey, and the one you probably think you know the most about. After a time of peace, the Justice Chojin we know and love have gotten old. They've started families. And when the dark forces combine, it's up to a new generation to fight off this new threat. Starting in 1998, Kinnikuman Nisei would run for a mind-boggling 58 volumes, covering just a mere 5 arcs. For context, the entirety of the original Kinnikuman series was only 37 volumes if you count the 2010 volume, 36 otherwise. So obviously, Montaro, Kid Muscle, must have been amazing, right? There's no way it could be overshadowed by any other characters in the show, right? So, was Montaro able to step out of the long shadow of his father? Was Ultimate Muscle a worthy successor to the Muscle Throne? Well, there's only one way to find out, and 3 questions that must be asked. What worked, what failed, what Gyudon-fueled cowardly escapes will be curtailed. There's a lot of matches to see, and a lot of wrestling to do, here in Ultimate Muscle in Review. This is what most people know as Ultimate Muscle. This, for a lot of people, was their only introduction to the series, including myself. I didn't know of the broader Kinnikuman lore when I watched Ultimate Muscle every Saturday morning and still had a blast. This may be a controversial take, but up to a point, I think the 4Kids dub of the anime is actually the best way to take in the media. We're going to be reviewing the manga as our primary artifact because there's some very big differences that we're going to get into, but if you ever get the itch to pursue the series, I really encourage you to watch the show. It's very much an early 2000s anime that reuses a ton of scenes, but it's also basically an abridged series that still manages to have respect for the source material. They don't call the characters just wrestlers, they call them Chojin. They don't write away the events of the previous series, they actually steer into it even if you don't know what they are, and while they do cut some scenes, arguably for the good of the series, they're smart to be cut and adjusted. We bash 4Kids a lot of the time, but remember, without them, the broader audience may have never been introduced to series like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Shaman King, or yes, even Kinnikuman. And their hard work really does shine through here. Mark Thompson does a brilliant job bringing Kid Muscle to life. Alec is a terrific Meat. You have Eggman as Meat, what's not to love? And of course, Eric Stewart, Dan Green, the late great Maddie Blaustein, Lisa Ortiz, Veronica Taylor, and so many more actually poured a ton of heart and passion into this series, and it shows. We'll also be using the anime Western translations of the names because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a filthy Westerner that prefers names like Wally Tuskett and Comrade Turbinsky, and I'm not going to apologize for it. So if you want a fun, comedic adventure, Ultimate Muscle still holds up kinda well. Yeah, some jokes are very interesting for the time period it came out in, but that's kinda the charm of older series like this. If you want a great Ghost Stories follow-up experience for your friends, sit and watch Ultimate Muscle together. I guarantee you're not going to regret it. And honestly, the filler arc in Ultimate Muscle does help fill the series out. So, was the manga as good as an anime that's a perfectly serviceable Saturday morning cartoon? Well, let's get into it. The galaxy has entered an era of peace. The Justice Chojin of old have, well, grown old. They've settled down, had kids, and believed that the darkness was behind them. However, the diabolical DMP has risen from the ashes, a conglomerate comprised of the devil, malicious, and perfect Chojin, all in one single organization ready to take over the world. The heroes try and fail to stop them, so with no other options, they must raise a new generation of wrestlers to put down this evil organization in their stead. They decide to open up the Hercules factory and train a new force for good. However, our story starts up on the peaceful planet Kaniku, where Suguru is king, his dad is old, and he and Babamba have been spoiling their son rotten. Emphasis on rotten. Introducing our main character, Kid Muscle, aka Montaro Kaniku. He's a spoiled rich kid who doesn't want any kind of responsibility, except in his free time. When he goes to explore, he actually ends up training with Ramen Man, who sees his inner fire and potential. See, Suguru never wanted Montaro to see his accomplishments. He just wanted him to grow up in a peaceful era. So he was his goofy, lackadaisical dad self that showered Montaro with gifts. Now that being said, they say Suguru and Babamba are in their late 50s while Montaro is like 14, 15. Which means Suguru was fighting Super Phoenix at like 35, which gives an old man like me hope. Montaro is attacked while training with Ramen Man and is able to put the assailant down, who's an agent of the DMP. Does his name matter? No, not really. I think it's like Bone Crusher or something. He doesn't matter. However, while he wants to take it easy, Montaro is sent to train in the Hercules factory, and we get our introduction to the new squad of the series. Representing Ireland, we have everyone's favorite sea mammal given a frosty form, Wally Tuskett. He's the son of the bucking bronco and won't live in the shadow of any pesky Kanikus. He's Terry the Kid. You love saying the name, you love seeing the guy. Who else is it? It's Dick Van Dyke. Oh, and here's Gorgeous Man. What, you don't remember Gorgeous Man? Well, I can tell you why. See, Gorgeous Man is based off the Confederate flag. States' rights to do what? So in the Ultimate Muscle series, because they didn't want a walking, talking Confederate flag, they just recolored him and made him more Dick. So you get a double dicking instead. I'm not going to talk about Apollo or the other guy all that much because they don't do anything. They stand there, I guess, but it's very interesting. Of the new generation, only 2 of them are actually related to Justice Chojin we'd seen before. There's no Ramen Man Jr. or Wars Man Mach 2 or anything. It's literally just Montaro and Terry. But their final test is simple. They have to wrestle the legends and prove they have what it takes. Terry is up against Buffalo Man and Montaro is fighting his dad. Kinda feels like it would have worked better if Terry, fought his dad. The guy he kinda resents because he sees him as a coward that always threw his glory to Suguru. Suguru then tells Terry that Terry Man is his best friend and always would be, and oh look, Montaro beat his dad as they do a battle of the jokes, and Montaro kink shames his dad. I'm conflicted, because when we see Montaro wrestle and awakens to his burning inner strength, he's whipping out legendary Kaniku techniques and Kaniku busters like it's nothing, when his dad struggled and trained to learn those legendary techniques. How do you have Montaro grow when he's effectively starting from Suguru's endpoint? How do you make him worth caring about? I would have loved if he had a few joke wins early on or got lucky without busting out those legendary techniques. Then, the more he harnesses the burning inner strength, the more he can whip up those legendary moves and understands his dad a little bit better and what his dad had to go through. Mostly because we were already told Suguru hid everything about his wrestling days. So for Montaro to have that kind of inherited muscle memory just sort of feels weird, especially with him not really facing any serious repercussions. Montaro beats Suguru and the gang get their assignments on what part of Japan they're being sent to protect. And wouldn't you know it, Montaro is given the same park that Suguru lived in. Makes sense, I guess. Montaro goes to Suguru's old shack and finds a cryo-frozen Meat who sees Montaro's burning inner strength and sees the potential in the rich crybaby coward. I feel so bad for Meat here. This man froze himself for years so that he could help the new generations. Everyone he knows has moved on and gotten older and had kids. He's still just Meat. And now instead of Suguru, his arguable best bud and the guy that always looked out for him, he's got Montaro. Poor guy. But we're at the bottom. Montaro has plenty of growing room, and we're just getting started. We haven't even cut into the bulk of the series. Montaro can grow. Suguru wasn't his best when the original series started either. There's hope. And look at that. There's a certain, way more interesting character lingering in the shadows. So I did just want to briefly mention that there is a reimagined version of this arc in the form of All Out Assault. Now, it's super hard to find translations of the entire thing, and while it's neat that they'd redo the arc, for the sake of uniformity, I'm going to focus on the original. Montaro is slacking off as a protector and ends up getting pushed around by the top of the class goat, Dick Van Dyke. Oh, look at that, he's so imposing with his horns, he's so cool. Well, while old Dick's out on patrol one night, he gets attacked by Kevin Mask and broken effortlessly. Kevin Mask, the son of Robin Mask, beating up a Justice Chojin? Why? Oh, that's because Kevin Mask is a member of the DMP, trained with the Devil Chojin, and follows his own way in active rebellion of his dad, even though his dad absolutely had a villain arc. This is the start of my true thesis of this video. Kevin Mask should have been the main character of the series. Are you shocked at all that he's one of the most popular Kinnikuman characters of all time? Look at him. He's the son of one of the most popular characters. He's edgy in the late 90s when anti-hero wrestling and things like D-Generation X were super popular. So he's obviously going to shine a ton in this series. Yep, absolutely. So the setup for this arc is definitely a way to set something up. Montaro and his friends go to a wrestling event that's crashed by a group of DMP wrestlers led by Kevin Mask. They start beating up the human wrestlers, and Montaro and the gang just sorta get involved. Yep. Isn't that so clean? They just burst in. Anyway, up first is Montaro versus the cellular terror that is Diabolical. I love these names. I love them so much. They're just so dumb in all the best ways. Oh look, Diabolical is calling up all the dark memories of Montaro and starts pushing him past his limits until he has the just absolutely dumb idea to dial Kinnikuman. Montaro doesn't care about his dad at all and is able to break the ceiling, get some rain on Diabolic, and short his circuits. Why didn't he beat the first Chojin he fought with gags and then actually use wrestling moves? I don't know, I'm sure I'm being petty. Up next is someone with a vendetta against the Kinniku clan, and for good reason. He's the grandson of the legendary devil coach Sneak Gator. He's an old soul in a new shoe. He's the dastardly Pumpinator. Oh, and Montaro pretends to be injured so he doesn't have to fight again, and Wally steps up to get his first fight of the series. You know what? Not great on Montaro, but here we go. It's a walrus versus a shoe. What could go wrong? We also see more of Kevin's past, where he was basically tired of being taught all that filthy book learning and ran off to be a bad guy and throw away the legacy of the Mask family. Both he and Montaro, for entirely different reasons, want nothing to do with their birthright. Kevin wants to be his own man, and Montaro doesn't want to be bothered. What a dynamic. Wally and Pumpinator fight, and this is Wally's time to shine. It's our first big fight of one of Montaro's friends. Dick is down, but we needed to see how cool Kevin Mask is. Terry the Kid is ready, and Wally is giving everything he's got. And like, even from an arc structure concept, if you still have Kevin Mask for Montaro to fight after this fight, it gives someone else a chance to have a moment to shine and gives them a way to show off their potential in the series. But no, Wally gets beaten black and blue by a talking shoe. Yes, he can turn into terrifying reptiles just like his grandpa, but yeah, poor guy gets beaten down something fierce right in front of Montaro, and Montaro is scared and doesn't want to fight Pumpinator, especially if he can hurt Wally like that. Aren't they friends? Again, okay, very early in Montaro's career, so maybe, he'll get better from here. Wally even asks him to avenge him. which will not be a recurring theme, I promise. So it's Montaro versus Pumpinator, and look at that, they're going back and forth, and Montaro beats Pumpinator by taking a dump in public in the ring. And then Pumpinator falls into it because nothing ruins shoes more than stepping in the stank. Suguru beat Sneegator after a bloody, brutal brawl. Sneegator pushed Kinnikuman to his limits, and Suguru had to use a suplex to beat him. Montaro beat his grandson with a turd. Okay, that's fine, because obviously that wasn't the focus. We still have a third member after all. We still have Kevin Mask. Oh yeah, Montaro versus Kevin Mask. Here we go. This is what's all been leading up to. And Kevin Mask is quitting the DMP and walking off. He realizes that neither the DMP or the Justice Chojin are the paths he wants to follow and wants to chart his own course. Oh, okay. Sure wish we were on his journey, but we don't have time for that, because there's been an assault on Osaka! That's right, 2 new menaces are joined by an old legend. Sunshine, the Devil Knight, has let 2 of his greatest students loose to take out the new generation. The prehistoric powerhouse Tyranniclaw, and the Queen's Gambit-obeying King Castling. Checkmate. Terry decides to run to Osaka, gets captured, and Montaro runs into Sunshine, who blackmails him into being the ref for the Terry/Tyranniclaw match. And I'm hating everything that I'm saying here. Terry and Tyranniclaw enter a cage match, and Montaro starts being the most by-the-book ref imaginable, and I think this is where the anime starts to really show why it had such a Saturday morning appeal, and that's largely thanks to Doc and Mac, the color commentators, and how 4Kids treated Ultimate Muscle as a sort of just wrestling series where they're following wrestlers from fight to fight. Where in the manga, Montaro is very obviously the main character, I would actually argue after a point, Doc and Mac are actually the main characters of Ultimate Muscle's anime, because they're all framed within a wrestling show. Each episode is us following the real adventures of these wrestlers, and it allows it to edit as much as it needs to, add in extra clips, and basically pad for time. This doesn't have that. This just goes from arc to arc, and that's all we really get. Also, yeah, in case you haven't seen, the manga is way more violent, and you have Tyranniclaw just chomping away at Terry. But when Montaro starts making so many bad jokes one after another, it starts to freeze Tyranniclaw because he can't stand how frosty they are. 1 win from a joke is one thing. 3 wins in a row is another. Terry beats Tyranniclaw, giving him a win and showcasing that he's not some slouch. Good for Terry the Kid. I'm excited to see him grow and succeed, and what do you mean he only has 1 more fight in the first series? Really? Terry the Kid, child of Terry Man. Well, that's depressing. Hey, look at that! It's Montaro versus Checkmate. Checkmate is a Devil Chojin that was raised from a child by Sunshine, who cultivated him to be the perfect Devil Chojin. He's a cold, calculated celebration of everything the Devil Chojin of the DMP represent. All the Devil Knights had gone on to other things, even members like Asura Man and Buffalo Man defecting to the Justice Chojin. But Sunshine never gave up, and Checkmate is gonna turn things around. He's super popular, super strong, and Montaro is afraid, while also annoyed that Checkmate is more popular, and eventually ends up fighting him to prove he's better. I get Montaro is a kid here, I get he's like 14, but he has shown absolutely no growth at all. Oh look, Checkmate is actually a monster and very much a Devil Chojin, and starts to show his true colors as he brutalizes Montaro in front of everyone, and he's ready to finish him off. A kid tries to stop him, gets knocked aside, and Montaro gets his second wind, like usual. They clash, and after assaulting Checkmate's horse knees, he's able to wear him down and crash that castle. With Checkmate defeated, the rest of DMP taunting Sunshine and the Sandman getting impaled by a giant fist spear, he's got literally nothing to lose and blows up the DMP headquarters with all the leaders in it. The conglomeration of Devil Chojin, Perfect Chojin, and Malicious Chojin lasted less than 40 chapters. What? I keep trying to rationalize why they would do that. Maybe they want to focus on Justice Chojin inner conflict. Maybe they want to introduce an even more maniacal threat for the new generation to deal with. Neo Devil Chojin or something. Except that's basically what the DMP was already. So, yeah, the main organization the kids were trained to beat is just sorta gone, and Montaro has saved the day. Awesome. Checkmate even being carried off by Sunshine to grow stronger and maybe come back. I love Checkmate. I think he's got a great design and a ton of potential, and spoilers, this is his actual only fight in the series. Never gets another one. Nope. All that setup for nothing. Alright, so where do you go from them having done what they were trained to do? Well, welcome to the unknown, I guess. This is just annoying. Harabote is embarrassed by the new generation slacking off and enjoying themselves after beating the DMP. He thinks they're too relaxed, and so he threatens to replace them with the graduates of the most recent class. If one member of one team wins their little tournament, their whole team survives, and vice versa. The new class, aka Generation X, would consist of Hydrazoa, who totally looks like a good guy, Road Rage. These are supposed to be heroes, right? Oh, look, here's Scarface, who's totally not a bad guy, looks super friendly to me, and Jaeger, a guy in a bike helmet. I wonder who the good one is. Montaro is excited because only one of them has to win their way to the top, and do you see what's happening? No? Oh, don't worry, you will. The first round is Montaro versus Road Rage, Wally versus Hydrazoa, Dick Von Dick taking on Jaeger, poor guy, never stood a chance, and Terry versus the totally cool swoot dude with attitude, Scarface. I will say, I haven't talked about it much, but Nisei is actually pretty funny. Even the 4Kids anime absolutely holds up in parts. I'm not trying to say this series has to be serious 100% of the time. Kinnikuman absolutely wasn't serious 100% of the time. And the part where they decide their matches at an Iron Chef arena was just honestly one of my favorite moments of the series, and it's so dumb, and that's okay. But to be this deep into the series and not really have a serious moment other than the DMP being destroyed, meaning they won, meaning they could take a vacation, it just feels weak for setup. But here we go, a new tournament. First up is Jaeger versus Dick Van Dick, and this might actually have been a chance for Dick to prove himself if Jaeger wasn't speaking the German and flashing his Red Rain of Berlin, aka the Red Rain of Pain. Name sound familiar? Yeah, Jaeger is an orphan that Brockenman Jr. took in and trained to be the best Justice Chojin he can be. He fights with honor and a desire to help people just like his master instilled in him. You know what? I enjoy Jaeger, Jade, whatever you want to call him. I think he's a great character and a fine addition to the team. Surely he'll have a ton of great fights after this arc, right? No, and don't call me Shirley. With Dick down and Jaeger moving on, things are getting tense and Montaro is getting spooked. Next we've got Wally Tusket versus Hydrazoa, and here it is. Here's Wally's turnaround. His mom and sister are in the crowd. He lost the first time, but he's back to pushing the teeth. He's got this. There is no world where Walrus Man can't beat a man of living water. That'd be embarrassing. He's literally a walrus. And the fight has him showing how he's one of the best technical wrestlers from the class. People even come over to cheer him on because he's so active in his community. And I don't hate the idea of a new tournament at all. This is a wrestling series. That's how you do it. But we never see Wally and Terry being horrible guys. They're teens having fun after they beat the DMP, some contributing more than others. They were forced into the situation and now Harabote is mad? It just doesn't make sense. And when we see everyone cheering Wally, yeah, it doesn't make sense how he can be viewed as this slacker that hates everyone. He's a good guy who's a good wrestler. He does not deserve what happens to him. And whatever you think I mean by that, unless you know, you have no idea. Sure enough, even with fish power, Wally can't stop Hydrazoa and gets his head smashed into a ring post and knocked out. Man can't catch a break at all. Montaro gets even more scared. Next is Terry the Kid versus Scarface, and, well, I think we all know how this is gonna go. Scarface is a giant foreboding essence of a man that's just stomping his way towards a little bronco that could, and, yeah. To Terry's credit, he's going all out and trying to body this big guy to make his paw proud. And then Scarface's body starts to crack. Oh, wow, look, he's even edgier and kind of super badass. Yeah, this is Scarface's true form, and it's revealed later that he's actually a student of the DMP who snuck into the ranks to destroy the Justice Chojin from the inside and was in the same class as Kevin Mask. Which, say it with me, Kevin Mask should have been the main character. Scarface is just badass. Look at him. He's big, he's spooky, he's jagged, and ready to brutalize anyone and everyone. He handily beats Terry, and Yeager confronts him, demanding he know what's going on. I appreciate that they never drag you along on these fights, and they tell you who the villain is pretty early on. But also, Road Rage and Hydrazoa really aren't good guys either. The only actually good guy in the bunch is Yeager, and it shows. With Terry down, it's up to Montaro to somehow win the entire tournament and save his friends from losing their posts. Huh. Hey, remember when Suguru had to get the pieces of meat back together and he and his buddies all took on Devil Chojin and built their teamwork and camaraderie and friendship power? Yeah, Montaro gets avenge me power, I guess. These guys lose, tell Montaro he better not lose, and then, he's gotta do that thing and not lose. It's just so awkwardly surface level. Finally, it's Montaro versus Road Rage, and look at that. Road Rage wants everyone to follow strict road rules, and he's willing to hurt people to enforce his laws. I'll admit, this is one of my favorite Kid Muscle fights, just because he's just like his dad for a brief moment. This is exactly how I'd imagine Kinnikuman would fight a character like Road Rage. Road Rage is making fake trains, and Montaro is changing arrows, saving dogs, and look at that, he beats him with an actual Kinniku Buster. Isn't that refreshing? A win not just sorta given to him. However, he's the only one that's won his round, so he gets to run the gauntlet. How is he gonna turn this around, especially when he's gotta fight Hydrazoa in the next round? I'm gonna be honest. The fact that no one won their matches is just upsetting to me. Like it took all the wind out of my sails. I remember watching this arc as a kid and thinking I probably just missed something, but nope, it's just Montaro always running the gauntlet. Granted, you can argue Yeager is on Montaro's side since he does want to stop Scarface from being evil, but I don't know, man. It makes me not believe in really any of this class. Meanwhile, Scarface and Kevin Mask were in the same class and learned the same dark arts. Wouldn't that be a cool subversion of expectations to see? To have Kevin Mask resenting Montaro being the spoiled brat with an innate knowledge of the muscle techniques while he had to go through grueling training and denounce his heritage. You see his fellow students, and there's fallout from Montaro defeating Checkmate that sends shockwaves to the remaining DMP that Kevin has to now deal with. You could flip the coin so easily in this series and have it be 10 times better. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The first match of the semifinals is Montaro versus Hydrazoa, and if I had a nickel for every time Wally Tuskett lost to a guy and then begged Montaro to avenge him, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but I'm surprised it's happened twice in just the last 4 fights Montaro's had. Yeah, woo, here we go. Oh look, Montaro is afraid of Hydrazoa and doesn't want to fight him as they fight over the water because that's fair to Montaro, I guess. And yet, with the power of a well-placed octopus, he's able to ink up Hydrazoa, find his organs, and beat the gel-based Death Ray to avenge his friend Wally yet again. The only real issue I have with the Hydrazoa fights is that they just went on for far too long. There's so much back and forth that did not need to be there. Look at him, he's a waterman, it's self-explanatory. Now remember how I said Montaro used the power of an octopus to ink up old Hydrazoa and had his little joke win? Yeah, let's look over at the other match, shall we? Scarface and Yeager decide to have a concrete death match where the arena is covered in concrete and Brocken Man Jr. gets flashbacks of his fight with Ramen Man where he tried to avenge his Faja and it did not go well. Yeager is throwing the red rain, Scarface is carving up the arena, and this feels like a true blue Kinnikuman fight. Scarface looks rad and is honestly a fantastic new age villain design. He's sleek, armored, has a mask and the nails, and hits every element he needs to. I can be critical of the characters themselves, but the designs are still kinda pretty sweet. It's easy to see why both Yeager and Scarface would be popular characters in polls later on. However, Scarface has to be that guy, cuts Yeager's whole arm off, and slams him into the arena with a perfected Scarface variant of the Kinniku Buster. Much like Buffalo Man and Ashura Man before him, he has declared a challenge, and it's up to Montaro to somehow come up with an answer. And like, it's so funny when you see these scenes in the 4Kids version, because they do some Yu-Gi-Oh! Shadow Realm, shattering to 1,000 pieces, and then there's the manga, where he's just a one-armed wonder bleeding out. Which, again, the fights are pretty, just never great when they feel pretty and pointless. So it's the finals, and that means, of course, it's Scarface versus Montaro. Scarface's Scar from when he saved Kevin Mask back in their school days is acting up, but he charges in with his malicious power while Montaro, you guessed it, is begged by Brocken Jr. to beat Scarface for Jaeger and avenge him. Gee, if I had a nickel for every time Montaro had to avenge someone At most, Suguru did that like 4 times across the series, or it was in the team fights where it was just sort of lined up that way. It just feels backtracky. Why are we narratively devolving here? And that's sort of perfectly exemplified by what we get here. Montaro has to face the perfected Kinniku Buster and has to come up with his own way to overcome it. And he comes up with the Muscle Millennium, where he slingshots himself from the ropes of the ring into the opponent with enough force they get crushed by the opposite ropes on the other side. I say this with all the love in the world for Kinnikuman in my heart. I say this as a true blue fan. I think the Muscle Millennium is one of the dumbest moves known to man. The conditions you have to set up for it to work are insane. It's just situational and bad and over-relied on. And it's his new signature move, so guess what? You're just gonna keep seeing it. Montaro beats Scarface with the power of his flame and avenges Jaeger while guaranteeing he and his friends can stay. Oh, and Jaeger joins up. Yay. Okay, so where do we go from here? Where is the momentum for the series? There's no setup for anything past this. By now in Kinnikuman, you had the Devil Chojin in their ranks growing by the arc. Then you had the tag team arc and the battle for the throne after that all used previous arc characters, and they were all great in their own ways. Here, these just feel like one-off adventures, which again, work better for a Saturday morning cartoon than they do a shonen series. So how does this kid-friendly wrestling series continue? Oh, Montaro goes speed dating. Transition noise. Yeah, this one is quick, but important to talk about, much like the Babima arc in Kinnikuman. Montaro is trying to get a girlfriend because he's tired of not having one and wants to make out and stuff. Montaro is a weird character. He's thrusting everywhere. It's something. While out, he runs into Roxanne / Rinko, who is trying to make sure her friend isn't becoming a call girl and goes to back her up. This is just such a weird little side story. Montaro helps Roxanne and they leave. He walks her home and it's revealed that Roxanne is actually the adopted daughter of Mari from the original series and a former love interest of Meat and Suguru. Meat even running into Mari again and they reconnect. Roxanne can't believe Montaro is the son of Kinnikuman until she's kidnapped by the dastardly Crawdaddy, a former DMP soldier that Montaro handily beats and shows off in front of his new love interest. Crawdaddy. I adore Crawdaddy. I'll say this. Nisei does a lot wrong, but I personally think the Roxanne and Montaro element is one of the strongest things the series has. The 4Kids anime also helps with all of this by cutting out all the perv scenes of Montaro and dialing most of it down. And that's not coming from a prude or anything, it's just so distracting when again Suguru, who canonically was in his 20s or 30s, wasn't nearly this bad, but his son is somehow worse. It's just odd. But I enjoy Roxanne, and I appreciate that she tricks Montaro into being his best self because she does believe in him. It's a story that makes them feel unique, and it's nice to see Yude Damago writing competent female characters, which is tricky for a lot of shonen series to do. Alright, who wants to basically read a filler arc? Montaro is on planet Kinniku when he's called into a council of the Kinniku elders, including his father, Ataru, aka Kinnikuman Soldier, and Mince. Mince! Get it? Mince? Meat? Wonder if those two tiny Kinniku people are related at all. Who knows? That's part of the mystery. The elders say that Montaro has been slacking off again. If I had a nickel for every time Montaro was slacking off. Now, I did actually like the setup for this one, admittedly, because Montaro has been relying too much on the power of Kaniku carrying him through, so he needs to properly harness his burning inner strength. That way he won't end up destroying his body. Which, especially for, you know, a rebellious 14-year-old that's gonna go all out, that's a great setup. You want him to be safe. That's a great premise, and I'm about it. So how does he do it? Does he have to wrestle like a Neo Kinnikuman squad or something? You know, have a trainer, a mentor? What's that? They've freed intergalactic murderers for Montaro to face and learn what it means to be a real Chojin? Sure, yeah, okay, cool. What's that? They're called No Respect? That's a really dumb name. So yeah, Montaro has to go to location A and fight opponent A, so on and so forth, and shatter their ice lantern so he can light his lantern and learn what it means to be a real Kaniku hero. Now, this could be an excellent training arc. It's right there. The problem is, and this is important now, it isn't. Up first is the dreaded Fork the Giant, the forklift Chojin. He's shaped like a forklift and evil. That's really all you need to know. Hey, there's Wally Tuscan, and he's getting beaten up by the forklift, and Montaro has to knock him out of the way, and Wally asks Montaro to avenge him. Gee, if I had a nickel for every time! Wally, my guy, maybe take up fishing. As Montaro and Fork the Giant are squaring off, Fork shows Montaro checkmate in the crowd and knows he's there because he hates him, showing that Montaro can only hurt people. Now look, if this was a lesson being taught to him by like Soldier or Buffalo Man, you know, putting on like an evil ruse so he knows what to expect from evil Chojin, it would kind of make sense. Here's the thing. Fork took out several guards. Like, there's a whole side thing where Montaro was convinced to fight Fork because he read a letter from a kid that lost his dad to him. That's messed up. Like, I'm not sure this is who you fight to teach a kid the power of friendship. Turns out Checkmate has actually had a change of heart and believes in Montaro and his ability to turn those that were evil good. Montaro slams Fork with a muscle millennium and Fork breaks his own lantern. It's great to see that Checkmate has come around. I really actually love that he might be important later on, and that he's following Montaro on his matches through this arc. Up next is the dreaded face stealer, Hanzo. Montaro is tired and struggling since he just came from a fight and needs some time to recover, so he runs off while Ninja steps in to fight Hanzo and avenge his student that Hanzo stole the face of by, you know, slicing it completely off. Hanzo is weird. He fights with weird origami and will summon these men out of the tatami ring to tag team with, and, you know, also has the whole sword hand thing. He's got a lot of elements that just kinda don't mesh together. Sure enough, Ninja loses but believes in Montaro to grasp victory. The fight between these two boils down to Montaro is scared, runs around, tries to be clever, has a heart-to-heart where Ninja gives him a pep talk and at least doesn't ask him to avenge him just for him to win, pops up, hits him with his new trademark muscle millennium, you love seeing it again and again, and covers Hanzo's face for him out of respect since he has severe burns that he doesn't want the world to see. Hanzo is definitely not a horrible guy. He's done bad things, absolutely, but he's definitely a little redeemable, though I'm sure we'll never see him again. It'd be weird if he got another fight over Checkmate. That's all I'm saying. And again, like, this wouldn't be a problem, this wouldn't be an issue if he was fighting, you know, I don't know, maybe Kinnikuman Zebra shows up. Or hey, maybe he just fights Ninja. You know, the former Devil Chojin Ninja? Why not just have that? It doesn't make sense. It feels like they sidelined all the characters he should be training with to give us a forklift and a paper man. Finally, it's Montaro versus Bone Cold. Bone Cold being an intergalactic bounty hunter who set his sights on Mince, who is, you guessed it, Meat's father. Mince gets kidnapped, Meat begs Montaro to save his dad, and for once, Montaro goes into the ring actually ready to do something to help someone else. I don't hate this match at all. They fight atop a giant face and Mince is in a mouth where Bone Cold will kick and slam it if Meat tries to help Montaro at all, so Meat basically has to watch his best friend's son fight to protect his dad and can't do anything. It's actually a great idea for Meat, and I'm about it. Turns out Bone Cold is actually the son of Kinkotsu Man, or Skullduggery, and the old bag of bones shows up to encourage Bone Cold to lose and embrace change. Skullduggery admitting he was a horrible father to Bone Cold and willing to sacrifice his life if it meant giving his son some peace. And then Montaro hits Bone Cold with the good old Muscle Millennium, and I have to admit, this one actually made sense, especially with the giant mouth in the middle of the stage. I was not mad about this Muscle Millennium. Mince takes his last breath, and Montaro gets all 3 flames. That was a perfectly decent way to end this arc, and I'm just upset the first 2 fights were just kind of fine. And I really wish Montaro won with something other than the Muscle Millennium in one of these matches, and just have him work a bit more for it. Have him learn to perfect the techniques he's just imitating. Maybe the Muscle Spark he did was only like 10% of its full potential, and he has to draw the power of the ancient Kaniku techniques out while putting a new spin on them, which will actually happen later on, but nope, not now. Muscle Millennium for days on these baking trays. And yet I can't be too mad, because at the end, while he struggles to show the flame for the elders, he's able to light the lantern in front of Roxanne to give her candles for her birthday, just wanting to show her something cool. Which again, if you had this as something Montaro was doing as a side character, it would just look a lot better. But you know what? If he grows from this moment, if he improves himself, then it worked. Spoilers, he doesn't. I think I can say this is a lot of people's favorite arc of the entire series, and it's honestly easy to see why. But I bet you don't remember it as well as you think you do. Harabote's son, Eichmann, decides that since they're low on funds, there's only one thing to do. Restart the Chojin Olympics! His sister Jacqueline also comes down because she loves watching men fight. And here it is. We're finally bringing back what changed Kinnikuman into the wrestling battle shonen it became. And look, Kevin and Montaro are both going to enter, heading towards a fight all but determined by fate. Remember, Kinnikuman beat Robin Mask in his first Olympic appearance. This has the potential to be incredibly personal. The stakes are real here, folks. Except Montaro doesn't decide to enter until the last minute and has to have a fight with the current Japanese finalist representative, Rural Man, a farmer Chojin who just wants to make money for his family to live well and to compete in the Olympics. Is he someone important in disguise? Nope. Just a wrestler Montaro needs to beat real quick because, you know, he's corrupted by greed, and Montaro's teaching him that lesson, which I don't think he can talk about at all. He has not suffered a day in his life. Man's trying to feed his family, and maybe he wants more than working in a farm. Oh darn, what a monster. Okay, sure, so then, you know, Montaro beats him. I'm not saying it's padding, but it feels weird that this was a message they wanted to send with Montaro. But okay, sure. Alright, everyone gathers and we get our first games. Oh man, it's gonna be something great. I can feel it. The first game is Look Over There, Rock, Paper, Scissors, and Montaro is teamed up with the elderly, vengeful Connie Base and handily beats him. Love it. Have nothing against it. It's actually kind of fun. Up next is the Daruma challenge that crushes Chojin if they don't break it down correctly. And oh look, there goes Wally! Wally, of course, then loses, falls, and asks Montaro to win and show everyone how strong he is. And if I had a nickel! But that's fine. Montaro clears it because of course he does. The next match is a Save the Girl Beachside Dash where a woman is dropped and the first Chojin to save her wins. Sadly for Terry the Kid, there's a kid drowning in 3 feet of water, so he runs over to save the kid and understands why his dad never won the Olympics, and he even gets an attaboy from his old man for doing the right thing. I will say this, I didn't notice it until I was watching the 4Kids dub. The 4Kids dub of this series is savage. They are tearing Terry the Kid apart for just going and saving this kid that's effectively drowning in a puddle with his head above water. I'm telling you, there are fun moments in the dub. They're great. The last event is a 3-legged race where Chojin have to strap a partner to them from the audience and run. Meat gets picked by Comrade Turbinsky, Kevin Mask meets an incredibly competent masked fellow named Lord Flash, Montaro has this fat CEO as his partner, and Checkmate's #1 fan gets absolutely blown away by a Gachipon man, so you guessed it, Checkmate drops out. Jaeger partners with Roxanne. They get through that, and now it's time for the real meat and cheese, the obligatory Tournament of Champions. Now, I know I'm slipping on names and using the actual translated names, and I'm gonna keep slipping on it, but I will never let it not be funny. So, these are gonna be their names one way or another. I'm basically just picking the funniest ones. Kevin Mask. Nothing funny there, he's just great. Kid Muscle. Destruction. Ha, so funny. Ricardo. Real gutbusters here. Comrade Turbinsky. Jaeger. Wash Ass. Photo Pat. Barrier Free Man. Legoax. Chijimi Man. And the Skyscraper. What a roster. Not a single one of these could have been replaced with one of the new generation at all. We needed Photo Pat and Wash Ass. It's fine. It's cool. Let's see how it goes. My boy Checkmate is just getting sidelined. Now, I did just want to do a brief cut in here. This would actually be where the anime has a filler about the Poison Six-Pack, where Montaro and the gang have to fight Baron Maximilian and his squad. This anime filler is actually phenomenal and gives Wally and the crew some extra fights to actually not look completely hopeless. That being said, it is technically filler, but absolutely worth watching. Fun fact, Len Hart would actually do a voice for the anime as herself. Len Hart being a legendary ring announcer for all kinds of fighting promotions and a weirdly interesting get. She stands out. She doesn't look like any of the other characters. She's there. And it's neat. All right, enough Snapple facts. Back to the canon. In the first rounds, we have Destruction versus Photo Pat, Kevin Mask versus Chijimi Man, and Montaro versus the dreaded Wash Ass, and Skyscraper versus Ricardo, with the rest of the fighters getting a bye. Destruction versus Photo Pat goes exactly how you think it does. Who's gonna win? A photo booth or a walking, talking warhead? Think real hard now. Yeah, Photo Pat ends up sliced and diced and it's fine. It's just sort of fine. Obviously would have loved to see Checkmate in there instead, but what can you do? I'm not salty, you're salty. The next fight of Kevin Mask and Chijimi Man keeps getting delayed and delayed and delayed some more because they can't find Kevin. He'd passed out in the sauna while pushing himself to peak exhaustion. He stumbles out, Chijimi Man gets cocky, and Kevin drops him right quick with as little wasted movement as possible. You know what? I enjoy this. This right here, this is great. Look at Lord Flash cheering Kevin on. Like, if we look at the popularity contest throughout the series, Montaro on occasion didn't even break the top 10, whereas Kevin Mask and Warsman were consistently up there. And Warsman hadn't even shown up in the series yet. Kevin Mask just has so much more appeal, and here he's pushing himself to his limits to harness his own form of malicious power / burning strength. He wants to be stronger. He needs to be stronger than his father ever was, and he's willing to push his body to its utmost limit to surpass his father. Montaro gets ready to fight a toilet. Now, yes, Wash Ass is a student / descendant of Benki Man who took his last flush and is in the great bathroom in the sky. So it's up to Wash Ass, or 4Kids called him Hollywood Bowl, to avenge his master and beat the Kaniku clan. Do you even care? Yeah, spoilers. Montaro beats the toilet man. He shoves clothes down there just like his old man, gets creative to duck and weave the water pressure bidet, and it's a whole thing. Oh look, then he won with a Muscle Millennium. Still the dumbest move in the game. Hee-haw. And finally, we have Skyscraper throwing down with Ricardo. Terry the Kid is actually Skyscraper's second, and I love that the anime included a little backstory for them that had Skyscraper trading on the Terryman Ranch and drinking milk so he can grow big and strong. Milk doesn't build buildings, you beautiful idiot. Ricardo shows why his neck is the sturdiest in the game and starts doing really well as Skyscraper keeps trying to drop him. However, a part of Ricardo's face cracks and you've gotta be kidding me. Wow, I really hope that's not a devil Chojin in disguise or anything. If I had a nickel! Ricardo breaks Skyscraper's arm, body, spirit, and will and advances to the next round. Whee! But you know what? We'll be open to the Ricardo good stuff. Could shake it up. Zero Devil Chojin in the original Olympics, that's all I'm saying. It really does kind of treat Devil Chojin as more like Power Rangers villains of the week for different arcs than it does their actual characters. It's interesting. Hey, look at that, we're already at the quarterfinals, and it's basically just the bye battles. Comrade Turbinsky versus Destruction, Kevin Mask versus Legox, Montaro versus Barrier Free Man, and Jaeger versus Ricardo, the man with a cracked face that may or may not be evil. Hey, wait a second, I'm getting deja vu over here. Alright, First up, who's gonna win? The half-plane man that used meat to beat the three-legged race, or the giant that sliced a photo booth up? Yeah, Comrade Turbinsky is a Russian robot Chojin who can self-identify as an attack chopper, stealth bomber, you name it. He beats destruction down with little effort, and I don't know, he's shown to be ruthless, sure, and I did love his design as a kid, but does he compare to Warsman? To which I'd have to say no, he doesn't. He doesn't have the oomph. However, he got his win, so he moves on. Next up is Kevin Mask versus the Chojin of living Legos, because why not? And I love that when Montaro fights joke characters, they have power washing bidets. When Kevin Mask fights joke characters, they're turning into Lego railguns and he's getting pulverized trying to find their heart brick to crush it and destroy the whole body. Which is terrific because even in the last match he had, Eichmann was willing to delay the match only because Kevin was so popular and profitable. And he absolutely has some of the best fights of the entire tournament. He fights Chijimimon, and I had to say it again, sounds like a Digimon, a Lego Leviathan, and the Red Terror Comrade Turbinsky, while Montaro fights a toilet, and who's he up against right now? An old man? Man, if he has to fight a demon hiding as a Justice Chojin in the semifinal to avenge Jaeger, I'm gonna be so mad! Next is Montaro versus Barrier Free Man. Now see, when I was a wee lad, I always thought this guy's name was Barrier Reef Man. Thought it was odd that an old man and a weird featureless Chojin fused to protect Coral, but who am I to judge? No, his name is Barrier Free Man because Nils is determined to remove all the barriers that make life less accessible for the elderly and became something of a champion of the AARP inclined. His arm, Jijo Man, is not as beloved. See, while Niles wants to help the elderly and just be an overall supportive guy that could have been made of coral, I guess, Jijo Man wants to run around and grope the ladies. See, he was banished to a tree, and Nils made a deal with this elderly, perverted devil to give him the strength to fight for what he believes in, and they're just the worst. I hate Barrier Free Man with a passion. I'm so glad he doesn't show up again, and Montaro is able to beat him with that same old muscle millennium. He to the haw. Montaro is really not putting his best foot forward here, but it's okay. Maybe it's Jaeger in the semifinals. Have him and Montaro actually fight for a change. You know, Brock and Man Jr. had a lot of big fights in the Olympics. It would make sense. The next match is Jaeger versus Ricardo, and I'm just so tired of how repetitive all this is. Jaeger and Ricardo fight, but Jaeger pushes Ricardo past his limits, and Ricardo finds himself snapping and revealing his evil form, and how his family was a bunch of devil Chojin, but they wanted him trained to be good, and he tried to with a grappling master, but he still has those demonic urges. These fights could have been anything in any order, and they set it up so it's the exact same thing as the last major tournament, and I hate it. Oh look, Jaeger gets bodied by Ricardo after he reveals his evil side, and Jaeger asks Montaro to avenge him and take Ricardo out. If I had... See how fresh the Kevin Mask stuff feels compared to the Montaro stuff? See how it feels like they're just recycling ideas here? Montaro doesn't have to grow. He doesn't have to improve. Because, you see, the semifinals are Kevin Mask versus Comrade Turbinsky, a living machine that can turn into any flying device in the battle of the Flying Sky Cube. And Montaro versus Ricardo is in a Death Sword Cross death match that is just the Scarface fight, but what if Scarface had self-doubt about being a bad guy? You know what? At least Scarface owned it. At least he owned who and what he was. I think that's why I don't care about the Ricardo fight. We're so deep into the series that it just doesn't matter what Ricardo does, because we already saw it. Anyway, here's the fight. Can you guess who wins? Bet you can't. Up first is Kid Muscle versus Ricardo, and at first Montaro is scared, but he remembers Jaeger with some encouragement by Roxanne, and yep, that sure is a traditional Montaro fight. They're going back and forth, back and forth. Ricardo has this like cuff thing that he hooks onto Montaro and does use some underhanded moves, but keeps swearing he's trying to be good, and it's all fine and dandy. Oh look, Montaro wins with a Muscle Millennium through the Giant Sword X. It's basically Chekhov's Giant Sword X, and tells Ricardo to renounce his ways. You don't understand yet why this is so frustrating to me, but no, this is wasted potential. The fight's fine, I guess, you've seen it before, but the next one is just so much better. Kevin Mask is hopping around the Sky Cube rings, and we learn about the Olap special, which is definitely not the Paolo special backwards. Why would Lord Flash know about such a thing? Yeah, turns out Flash is actually Warsman in disguise. I love it. Warsman has secretly been training Kevin Mask just like how Robin Mask trained him. That's incredible. Kevin has to break Trubinsky's gyroscope and send him down with the Olaf special to clinch victory. However, as the comrade falls to the ground, Meat jumps in to save him and gets injured, being forced to go to the hospital right before the finals, unable to coach Montaro. Look at where we are heading into the finals. Kevin Mask has been secretly taught how to fight just like his dad. He's coming into the ring with a mask that even has the gash from Robin Mask's fight with Kinnikuman in it. And Suguru and Robin are both in the crowd, and I really love that neither of them ever pushed their kids to beat each other. Suguru encouraged Montaro to do his best, sure, but it's not like Robin resents Suguru, and Suguru absolutely loves his British buddy. This isn't a proper rivalry at all, honestly. And it would have been fine if Robin did have a little resentment and wanted Kevin to win, because he lost to Kinnikuman several times. It's Kevin who's arguably forged his own destiny and elevated the very idea of the Masked Clan, versus Montaro, who is heading into the ring with Rural Man of all people as a second for one of the biggest fights of his life. He absolutely refuses to listen to Rural Man and starts getting pushed around until he does some basic thumb-sucking techniques to help redistribute some of the force of the blows. They're pushed into a corner, they're bringing out their burning inner strengths, and as these two clash, there's a divergence. See, if you remember watching Ultimate Muscle, you remember Montaro coming through and overcoming every adversity thanks to the power of friendship as he gets Kevin into a Kaneko Buster inverted into a muscle gravity and slams down, claiming victory. The second season was funded by 4Kids and actually aired in the States before it aired in Japan because it was just more popular in the US, and you could never have your main character lose the big game right before the Saturday morning cartoon ends, right? So, he wins. And they do paint it as, Kid Muscle makes a friend of everyone he beats, while Kevin Mask is a lone wolf. But Kevin Mask has been forging his own path. He has Flash on his side. He has friends. We've seen him have friends. But the 4Kids dub does absolutely push up that Kevin is a loner who doesn't need anyone. So their Kid Muscle is trophy in hand, happy as can be. But that's not how the manga remembers it. The manga has Kevin able to pull out just a bit more strength, lets Montaro slip up, and he beats Kid Muscle. The Olympics end with Montaro's crushing defeat that sees him rushing off into the wild as Kevin is bathed in the bounty of his success. I want to commend Yude Yamago for at least doing something different, for doing something against the grain. In a lot of ways, Montaro's climb through the bracket shows how much easier he had it and how he just sort of coasted to the finals. He still had a lot to learn, a lot to grow. Sure, Suguru absolutely got lucky in his first match with Robin, but he got stronger after that. He actually learned techniques and grew as a character. This could be a great chance for Montaro to reinvent himself and be something better. Now, that was technically the end of the anime, but we actually still have one more arc of part 1 to go. So how do they follow up one of the greatest events of the entire series? Well, it's been a few months since the Olympics and Montaro is in the woods training. He's struggling to deal with his crushing defeat and just wants to be strong enough he never loses again. Meanwhile, demon seeds have been sent out to select Chojin that were bullied or put down and infuse them with the crystalline power of a certain Shogun-esque entity. A base arises from the sea and they announce that they are the demon seeds and they need meat to help them resurrect their dark lord, the mighty Akuma Shogun. Dun dun dun. I mean, a Neo Akuma Shogun. I love me some Akuma Shogun. That would be a great way to show off Montaro's growth, Meat gets kidnapped and the Justice Chojin are barred from entering since only those with evil in their heart can come in. Montaro arrives, Buffalo Man makes a fake deal to be evil again to smuggle Montaro inside, and he rushes to go and save his beloved second. Oh look, he has to pick a room. I can't even be mad. I love the Devil Chojin stuff in Kinnikuman, so to see them finally committed to an idea of anything here is so refreshing. Who's he up against first? Constellation, the Star Chojin. He's fine. I'm gonna be real with you, gang. Only like one of the new demon seeds looks particularly interesting and the rest are just kinda there. I hate that new is the key word there. Constellation is just sort of okay. He can turn into different constellation forms while also coming up with new ones like the Great Microscope Constellation and sucks all of Montaro's burning inner strength out, but he's able to Uno reverse it and beat Constellation, but he's too drained to keep going. Huh. Cool. He got back Meat's torso, but he can't fight and he has no allies. Or does he? All of a sudden, a new squad jumps in to help Kid Muscle save the day, led by Olympic champion Kevin Mask. Again, just make it the Kevin Mask show at this point. Who else is in the squad? Scarface. Comrade Turbinsky wants to save his little buddy that saved his life, Hanzo the Face Stealer, and Barrier Free Man. Okay, really? Barrier Free Man? Couldn't come up with anyone else that would fit the evil Chojin description? Not, Ricardo from literally the last arc, or gosh, just, spitballing here. But hey, what about Checkmate? Actually give him a fight? One, please? So yeah, it's a lineup. Up first is Hanzo versus the Swiss-swimming egg-sack cheek-filled menace, Gepperland. Remember how I sang the praises of Marlin Man versus Atlantis in 2011? Yeah, I hate this fight as much as I love that one. It just feels so drawn out for no reason. All these fights really just feel like such a slog. Gepperland also looks way more like a Mega Man villain than he does anything actually terrifying. Hanzo is able to slice and dice his way through Gepperland's strategies, but Satan intervenes and mocks Gepperland before dropping a rock and taking both him and Hanzo out at the same time, with Hanzo sending Meat's piece to Montaro before he takes his last breath. Wow, what a genuinely noble sacrifice from Hanzo, who seems genuinely reformed, and I'm so glad there's depth to the sacrifice and some weight to his actions that will not be overdone to the point that none of it feels important. Next is Comrade Turbinsky versus Meltdown, who's basically just Comrade Turbinsky, but for motorcycles. Awesome. He's just, yeah. I actually think I hate Meltdown and his little GPS. He's just a genuinely annoying villain, and it feels like they kept looking for ways to hold Turbinsky back so that this not really close fight at all would end in, you guessed it, both of them being taken out, with Turbinsky using one of his rocket arms to shoot Meat's piece to Kevin. Wow. What a noble sacrifice. If I had a nickel. Yeah, do you see what's happening yet? Don't worry, it gets better. Oh, here we go. It's Barrier Free Man versus Tattoo Man. Tattoo Man. Now, what do you think a character named Tattoo Man would fight with? Brushes? Ink? Did you say cannons and little Karakuri robots? I'm sure it's supposed to be like a deeper meaning thing, He kind of looks like a gambler during the Edo period, so maybe that's what it's supposed to be. But Tattoo Man is just weird, and Barrier Free Man should have never had a chance against him at all. Turbinsky and Hanzo fighting to a draw, I could absolutely see. Barrier Free Man somehow believing in the power of elderly strength is able to bring the match to a draw? What? It generally feels like you're being mocked for being a fan at this point. I was almost insulted reading this match, but it's okay. It's been 3 draws in a row, just 2 more seeds to go. Up next is the tag team of Kevin Mask and Scarface versus the shocking superhuman Voltman and his cloaked tag partner who needs to wake up and get his bearings. So Voltman decides to play with the two, and I genuinely really enjoy this fight. It's great seeing Kevin and Scarface team up and show their camaraderie that we saw hinted at earlier in the series. Again, it'd make more sense for Kevin to be the main character. He just has the infinitely more interesting story. Well, the cloak seed is finally warmed up and decides to intervene. Oh man, wonder who the 6th seed is gonna be. Maybe like a cloud dude to mix with Voltman's electricity or something? Maybe it's Ricardo or Checkmate corrupted by the demon seed into a monstrous new form. I'd even take Baron Maximilian or something. But who do we get? Ashura Man. Ashura Man got brought back to life and given new strength to lead the demon seeds and to bring back Akuma Shogun. I mean, I guess I can't be too mad at it, I guess. You gotta have at least one of the original knights. And hey, we already saw Sunshine, so it would make sense, I guess. And Scarface and Kevin lose, and now the only way Meat can be saved and Akuma Shogun can be stopped is if Kevin and Kid Muscle form the best tag team known to man and stop this force. This is the time when Montaro can show all of his growth and agree to work with Kevin to save his little buddy. And he just storms off the train with his boys and refuses to acknowledge Kevin because he thinks he should have risked everything to save Scarface since that's what he'd do for his friends. Really? That's what Montaro would do? Montaro could say that with a straight face with Wally in the crowd? Scarface sacrificed himself to show Kevin a trick to beating Voltman. Kevin wasn't selfish, and he'd be struggling to see where what he did was anything less than noble. But nope, these two absolutely despise each other and train in secret. Sure, okay, last arc, everybody. They come back ready to climb the tower, and oh look, they still aren't getting along. They're fighting and bickering, and there's a woman mourning her child, and it's just nothing. The tag team starts, and Kevin fights Voltman to try and avenge Scarface, even trying to throw off his microwaves. I don't dislike the idea at all, and that part of the fight is great. Montaro refusing to help, not so much. Also, Suguru is there and trying to offer his son support, and Montaro keeps ignoring him like he isn't, you know, the guy that's beaten Ashura Man before. None of this last arc makes sense. Voltman and Kevin get taken out, and it's up to Montaro to beat Ashura Man before it's too late and Akuma Shogun returns. Ooh, I can't wait to see Neo Shogun. I bet he's sleek and has all these like new spikes and chains. And what do you mean there's only like 4 chapters left? You know what? Okay, maybe the Akuma Shogun fight is just super short. Whatever. Turns out Ashura Man took out his own son because his son killed his wife, and he couldn't stand having that demon in his demon kingdom in Demon World. Did I mention they're demons? Ashura Man tries to drive a wedge between Montaro and Suguru, but you never really get that there was anything there to begin with. Suguru loves Montaro, adores him even. He spoiled that kid rotten. Emphasis on rotten. Suguru never wanted Montaro in this position, and he hates to see his son so petrified of death. Like, this had the potential to be really, really solid, and then it just never was. What do I mean? Oh, Montaro beats Ashura Man, Akuma Shogun doesn't get revived, that's it, that's the end, thanks for reading. It's just, yeah. Part 1 ends with everyone escaping the tower after Montaro just poof wins and saves Meat. No Akuma Shogun, no satisfying payoff, just look at that, it's all over. Oh, and here's a side story about how Robin Mask met his wife, which won't be important at all, but you keep hearing that, don't you? All of this was just part 1. Everything we saw, everything we experienced was all just set up for the next beast. I will say this last arc at least had the benefit of not using the 4 kids Ashura Man, or I guess I should say Shivano, because like, imagine this.
I too am joining the Muscle League!
Being the last big bad of any series. It's just, yeah, it's a lot.
Ultimate Muscle! Ultimate Muscle!
Phew, I am losing my voice. So that's where Ultimate Muscle would end. Basically on nothing and a weird side story about Robin and his wife that I still don't see why it matters at all. What's that? It's integral to the plot of the second series? The second series is 28 volumes long and consists of exactly 1 arc? What do you mean there's an audience self-insert character? I don't think I'm ready for this. Alright, all my fellow Chojin, I give you the Ultimate Chojin Tag Tournament Arc.
Ultimate Muscle! Ultimate Muscle!
Welcome to part 2, an entire series based around 1 arc, and this arc is an absolute doozy. You got popcorn? I'd get popcorn. So before we really dive in, I just want to touch on 2 things from my previous Kinnikuman video. 1, I absolutely drank the dumb idiot juice when I said Kinnikuman Great was red initially, not black. He was absolutely originally black and then recolored to red later on. That's absolutely on me. 2nd, I had a lot of people say that I hated the tag tournament arc. I don't hate the arc at all. I don't hate friendship power. I don't hate the characters we saw really at all. The arc by and far was fine. What I did hate was just how dumb Ashura Man and Sunshine's scheme was. It wasn't some curse or parasite, it was a toy box with some dolls in it. And this is directly following an arc where they fought inside Wars Man in a tower battle over his heart. It's just tonal whiplash, especially considering the threat of Neptune Man and Big the Budo. I don't want people to think I don't believe in friendship power. I'm a true blue shonen fan. I love me some dumb friendship no jutsu, and I think Kinnikuman is one of the best in the business for it. Why does any of this matter? Well, in the future, Montaro is hanging out and imagining he's wrestling 2 sexy babes when 2 figures appear in the sky. Time Chojin named Thunder and Lightning. Thunder and lightning? That has nothing to do with time at all. Not minutes and hours, seconds, no. Their designs are also just kinda there. These aren't their final forms, but their final forms also aren't all that great. They say they're going to go back in time and they disappear. Now, if we were going to rehab Montaro and really make him a good protagonist, what's the number one thing you have to do? It's simple. You take Kevin Mask out of the equation. See, Thunder and Lightning are going back in the past to take out Robin Mask, so Kevin Mask could never be born. They take Robin out with their dumb watch hand needle death move strike thing, which is just so dumb looking. I hate it so much. This is not the imposing move you think it is, buddy. So with Robin gone, Kevin begins to fade away, and Operation Go Back in Time to Save Kevin is underway. Yeah, it's a time travel dream tag team. I'm gonna be real with you, gang, it reads like fan fiction. It's dumb, schlocky, and if you like good, dumb wrestling schlock, you'll love it about 50% of the time. Do not expect a clever story here at all. 2011? Oh, some of the best Kinnikuman ever. This? Not that. So read at your own peril, but if you just want the spark notes, I got you. The time travel group consists of Turbinsky, Barrier Freeman, Checkmate, Montaro, Terry the Kid, Wally, Scarface, and Jaeger. Eichmann, Jacqueline, and Roxanne would also join in, as well as one secret guest. Woo! Again, more Barrier Freeman. I hate this. At least my boy Checkmate is going back in the past. Oh, he could do a tag team with Sunshine in his prime. That'd be awesome. Oh, they get there right after the end of the first tag tournament, so Ashura Man and Sunshine are already gone. But hey, there you go. Montaro is flying into action, and he stopped Thunder and Lightning from taking out Robin, only to mortally wound his wife instead. That's better, I guess? So yeah, there's our new ticking clock and why Kevin can't come back just yet, but gives Robin Mask his whole, life thing, so he can fight again. Again, you say? Yes, it turns out that the tag team trophy just decides that Kinnikuman and Terry might not be the actual winners. So this ancient item demands a do-over with new tag teams because of course it does. See what I mean? Fan fiction. Want to see the old Chojin wrestling with the new Chojin in Dream Team matchups? That's literally all this is. It is fan service to the nth degree, and it's fine. So everyone is debating on who they want to squad up with, and Montaro can't find a partner. That is until the stowaway makes himself known. He's the master of magnets, the Hulk Hogan doppelganging Neptune Man from the future. Yeah, apparently this Neptune Man has just been chilling and training for years and saw a chance to actually win the tournament he lost all those years ago. But he needs a teammate since his last one, crumbled to dust. But he doesn't want Kid Muscle or Terry the Kid. No. He wants Wally. He sees the wild animal raging inside Wally's timid core and regales him with the famous fable of the huntsman, the walrus, and the talking oysters. Oh, what? Your Enuma never told you the old world story of the huntsman, walrus, and talking oysters? Allow me to substitute for your substandard Numa. One day, Hunter runs into a bunch of talking oysters with walrus friend. The talking oysters beg not to be eaten. The hunter greedily eats one and feels immense guilt, so he asks Walrus to forgive him. But Walrus cannot respond, as its mouth is full of talking oysters, because Walrus is animal. Yeah. It's a really, really, really dumb story that I'd absolutely believe Neptune Man just sort of came up with on the fly, and Wally was too embarrassed to say he didn't know it. So he's just sort of like, yeah, no, of course, yeah, sure. Everyone knows that story. I'm totes down, dude. You're totally fine. So Wally gets to awaken his inner beast with Neptune Man, and I love how dumb it looks. Like, look at them. It's like they just walked out of an Applebee's without paying for their strawberry marks because, they're evil. Oh, and they'll take out Checkmate just to show off how strong their duo is. You weren't expecting Checkmate to have a fight, did ya? Shows up in over 40 volumes, has exactly one fight in the entire series. Terry the Kid teams up with Robin Mask, Turbinsky is with Barrier Freeman, Scarface and Jaeger are entering together, but Montaro still doesn't have a teammate. Meat tells him about the hero of the peace times, and he wants to find this hero, but doesn't have any luck. So while out at a wrestling show with Roxanne, he notices a pig wrestler that's a parody of Kinnikuman, beating all the competition and running off. Remember how I said this is fan fiction? This character is Chaos. His name is Chaos. He's a giant orphan who collects a ton of wrestling paraphernalia and has a helmet he wears to hide his secret. He knows all the Chojin and all the fights in and out. He's a supposed human that absolutely doesn't have a dark backstory at all. He's definitely not a weird Mary Sue. He and Montaro team up to become the Muscle Brothers Nouveau. That's right, they're entering as the Muscle Brothers, literally against Kinnikuman and Terryman. It's definitely a choice. Yes, I know Kamehame was also a member of the Muscle Brothers. I'm just going off of the last tournament. We also find out that there's important bulbs growing from the trophy that will turn whoever eats them into the ultimate Chojin, so there's actually a race for the trophy. But now it's time for the Battle Royale! Yay! Checkmate's bloody face is shown off, and we see what Wally looks like under his brand new dome. We get the teddy bears that are absolutely not hiding any secrets whatsoever, and we get a bunch of nothing Chojin teams that will absolutely not make their way through the tournament. Oh, and yeah, Thunder and Lightning, the evil monsters that they are. It's a lot. Oh, what happened to Turbinsky and Barrier Freeman? They straight up try to zero Thunder and Lightning and sacrifice themselves. But okay. Tournament brackets decided, and here we go. The first match, Chaos and Montaro versus Master Carpenter and Model Man. They fight with the power of plastic models, and Montaro has to fight against the greatest wrestling political powerhouse known to man, Abraham Lincoln. He knocks the spirit off, and Chaos' knowledge of how rubber band motors work allow him to beat Model Man, even while taking a serious beating. It's a perfectly fine fight that shows how they'd handle Joke Chojin, and a good warm-up. If they fought anyone else, I think it would be an argument that Chaos shouldn't have been able to have beaten proper established Chojin. If they can't beat a living model, there's something wrong. The next round has Terry the Kid and Robin Mask fighting the Whaley Ghost Gang, consisting of Emperor Death and Gaon. Robin is worried as he basically has to see his son's dissolving body ringside since Thunder and Lightning brought him over, and it takes him out. However, Terry is able to embolden him and get him to focus so they can beat these nothing characters. Again, these characters just feel like filler. They don't matter. Like, did you ever worry that Robin Mask was gonna lose to Emperor Death? No, not really. They're not set up as unique enough. Have them be like Devil Chojin in disguise or more Time Chojin. Have them be proper infiltrators instead of just, some guy. Next, we have the Bears! Look at them! They're just some wacky guys! And they're up against Sputnik Man and Meteo Man! Now, these teddy bears could be anyone. They have the chance to be something great and start going back and forth with Team Cosmos until one starts growling and showing his true fearsome might. Look, this is really, really dumb and you'll never believe who both bears are, but it's honestly kind of great that they're just, some bears hanging out who handily beat Team Cosmos and take Sputnik Man out for good. There could only be one Russian Mecha Chojin. Oops, did I say that? The Bears offer so much comedic relief in the second part. The second part is not nearly as funny as the first, but these bears make that tolerable. I love these bears. I'm mad this is the only fight we actually get with them just being bears, but for now, the bears are good. Hey, look, a reserve match! Thunder and Lightning want to compete, and so Harabote has the reserve team enter, and out of the teams for it, when Canada Man and Special Man could have been something, they wuss out and everyone's favorite tag team of Brock and Jr. and Geronimo show up as the Choppers! Oh no. Geronimo, no. Remember when they both got super bodied in the original tag tournament? Or when Geronimo got passed around the perfect Chojin in 2011 like a punch card? Well, turns out they're still wounded from the first tournament, so when they fight Thunder and Lightning, they aren't at full strength and get death watched, with Thunder and Lightning slicing Brocken's whole arm off. Well, I'm sure that won't have lasting implications. Next up is the Trinities, aka Scarface and Jaeger, versus the Hell Expansions, giving us new Wally's proper ring debut. So hey, remember how we're in the 80s and Brocken just got his arm sliced off? How's he gonna teach Jaeger to do the Red Rain if he ain't got no arm? Yeah, it turns out Jaeger just doesn't have that move anymore because he never learned it and just always remembers Brocken with a hook hand. Scarface, seeing Jaeger not being himself, activates his malicious power and starts going ham on the Hell's Expansions. Look, they don't have magnet power. I'm just gonna be honest, the fiber optic wire adjustment for their power bomber move just looks so dumb, especially with one of them going out of Wally's tusk. And it's just like, why? Why is this here? This looks so stupid. Jaeger remembers his mentor's brand new advice of Red Rain, but what if it was used by a thick, meaty leg instead of a wimpy arm? And they both get beaten down because they are not the main characters. I really would have loved having Scarface and Kevin team up, but at least Jaeger and Scarface makes more sense than, Turbinsky and Barrier Freeman. Trubinsky and Checkmate could have teamed up. Could have been Team Horsepower. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, the Hell's expansions move on, and that's the end of the first round of matches. Yay. Overall, it just felt like filler that you could have taken out. Other than the Trandies losing, what really happened? The second round starts off with Kinnikuman and Terryman versus Moaidon and Ortega in the battle of the demonetization squad. I can say one maybe, I cannot say the other. Kinnikuman is actually getting pushed around because he gave the horn that was being used for his arm back to Buffalo Man so that Buffalo Man would have a fighting chance, and he wanted to fight fair. Which is just Kinnikuman being a bro. Absolutely didn't need to do it, and I love it. Moaidon uses the face of truth and lies when we find out that they're actually evil Chojin, and do you really think Terryman and Kinnikuman lose here? Really? I'll say this, while they try and weaponize Kinnikuman's kindness, unlike the first tag tournament, there isn't even a hint of distrust between him and Terryman. These guys are best friends who have been through the fire and flames together, and they're able to fight through pretty much anything, even beating Ortega and Moaidon with a muscle driver. Speaking of Buffalo Man, up next is Montaro and Chaos versus the 20 million powers, which is actually a really solid idea for Montaro to fight these two. Unlike in the first part of the series where Montaro basically did the same tournament twice in a row, there's actually a purpose to each of his matches. The first one shows him and Chaos figuring out some joke Chojin and figuring out their team. Now, Montaro has to face off against two of his teachers. They don't know they're his teachers, but he does. And these are his teachers, arguably near their primes. Montaro is coaching Chaos and pushing him on when he wants to give up, and look at that! Montaro is becoming a leader. Now, it only took Kevin being thrown in an X and having to help the greatest Chojin stand be something, but at least he is showing explosive growth. He's not running away from fights, he's being creative and actually trying. This is the Montaro we should have had back in part 1. But with Montaro's guidance, the new bros are able to have a clash of the pain trains and defeat Buffalo Man and Mongol Man. Next up is the Five Disasters versus Robin Mask and Terry Man. I think their team name is so dumb. The Five Disasters, and they're just Thunder and Lightning. What are the other three disasters? What? I don't know. Also, we got Thunder's actual form in the last fight, and I didn't talk about it because it's just fine. We get Lightning's actual form in this fight as well, and it's also just sort of there. They feel like movie villain designs that have to be beaten in 90 minutes, and they don't even look like the main bad guy one, and there's not another big guy to replace them with. They just don't have the weight Neptune Man and Big had. Robin and Terry start putting the hurt on Thunder and Lightning, and when Robin has Lightning in a tower bridge and snaps him in half, Lightning reveals the cheese that makes Time Chojin almost invincible. They can just rewind time and pretend it never happened. Gee, that sure is convenient. Sure enough, with their cheaty time powers, they're able to take out Robin and Terry, but they're able to barely survive and be airlifted out. I mean, it makes sense, but it wasn't even anything impressive. It just felt so whelming. It's alright, this'll be even better. It's the Bears versus Neptune Man and Wally at a zoo. They're clashing and running into each other again and again. The Bears are pushed to the limit and we see who they really are. Wars Man and his teammate Mammoth Man. Now, wasn't it nice that Wally got some time to shine? That he actually got some wins under his belt? Sure, they fell off and it was weird seeing him like this, but there's no way Neptune Man would betray his precious student, right? Yeah, it turns out Neptune Man wants to recruit Mammoth Man, so they just team up in the middle of the fight, beat Wally and Wars Man, and become the Neo Hell's missionaries. What did Wars Man think was gonna happen? Now am I mad I get more Mammoth Man? Absolutely not. Just, man, poor Wally. Also, again, I love that they make Mammoth Man not this big idiot. He absorbs, like, all the past information, becomes, like, a super genius, and it fits for him. Mammoth Man is fun. I love Mammoth Man. Oh, and we have some events that I'm just gonna shotgun here. So we find out that Chaos is actually a Time Chojin, and his family was attacked by the evil Time Chojin. He is found by the nun with a special memory key and a giant keyhole in the side of his head, where he learns of his origin. Oh, and the Five Disasters / Neo Hell's missionaries decide to summon the power of Satan, hail the Dark Lord, and curse Kinnikuman with a spider curse that can only be broken by true love. It's dumb, it's an excuse to have this whole Mari will they won't they and put the Mari shipping to bed, but if you think on it for just a second, it doesn't make sense. If Kinnikuman picked Mari over Babinba right now, Montaro would literally not exist. It would warp the entire series in the 11th hour. So yeah, it's just a way to weaken Kinnikuman before his fight with Montaro and Chaos. As the two teams fight, Kinnikuman actually starts to respect Montaro and finally believes that Montaro could actually be his son. Terryman and Kinnikuman give it all they got and even break the curse, which is great, but Suguru is struggle busting it hard. He declared a mask-for-mask deathmatch against Montaro, but as the fight goes on, they just bond more and more. Both teams are fighting fair, and I'll admit, I actually really enjoyed this fight. It was great to see Montaro taking the lessons he learned from his dad to actually beat his dad. This isn't the joke fight from the beginning of the series. This is a real smackdown between the two at their almost primes. You gotta weaken Kinnikuman a bit so Montaro can win after all, but sure enough, they're able to beat the muscle docking and slip their way into the finals. The other semifinal is between the Neo Hell's Missionaries and Thunder and Lightning. And gee, I wonder who's gonna win this one. It just doesn't feel earned, man. Neptune Man is a big bad that was able to shake up the entire tournament. Mammoth Man was Phoenix's right-hand man. These two are a bruiser squad that could very well make it to the finals and do some real damage. Except, as Mammoth Man is getting knocked around, he hears a mysterious voice that coaxes him to leave the match. The cloaked Chojin seemingly being Phoenix, even though the throne scramble hadn't started yet. Which I'd say is an inconsistency and feels weird, except there might actually be an explanation for it coming in 2011, and I'm kind of excited about it. It's the one element of this entire arc that I'm like, okay, wait. As I'm piecing things together, it's making a little bit more sense, and I kind of love it. Neptune Man, all alone against Thunder and Lightning, gives up and dives into a volcano where Chaos actually goes to save him and send him into the future so he can still help in his timeline. Chaos sacrificing the last of his life force to save Neptune Man. Look, I'll admit, Chaos grew on me through the series, and he genuinely grew as a character. He was important for Montaro's growth. Now, did he feel surface level? Incredibly, but he still represented something. He helped Montaro, he got Montaro to a point, but it's the finals, and in a very morbid way, he served his purpose. Now here's where I gotta be real with you, gang. At the time of writing this, I was unable to find translations of 39 chapters of the series. They may be out there and fill in this blank, they may not. But I'm going to report on what I read and not speculate what happens in the void. The last we see of the translations has Phoenix guiding Montaro to master the muscle spark of the 3 great muscle techniques so he can beat Thunder and Lightning. And that's why it's so important to support the official and unofficial releases, as translations of series like this and Kinnikuman 2011 really only happen because of the passion of the fans wanting to bring this series to a wider audience. We take what we can get, but when there's almost a sixth of the series missing, it leaves some considerable gaps. We then cut right to the middle of the finals, where Kevin, Mask, and Montaro are squaring off against Thunder and Lightning, and they're on the back foot. Like, yeah, I know I said Chaos served his purpose, because the reader absolutely has to know Kevin and Montaro are going to team up again and run it back after the not-so-stellar tag against Ashura Man and Volt Man. Like, why else would you bring Kevin back to the past? That's Chekhov's Kevin Mask right there. Chaos was a great fill-in to give us time before Kevin Mask took the stage again and Montaro could actually stand up there with him. We get some of Thunder's backstory, where an evil Time Chojin kidnapped his mom and he was created, so she understandably hates Time Chojin and hated her son when he started to show his evil powers, so he ran off to work with Lightning, even though he wasn't a horrible guy. Kevin and Montaro team up, and while they save Thunder, Lightning ends up falling into the volcano, his goal left unfulfilled. They throw the bulbs at the bottom of the trophy to heal or bring back everyone that got hurt so they can go on to the scramble for the throne and fly off to their timeline. See, it just reads like 28 volumes of fan fiction. A what-if story about 2 generations meeting and having a clash of the mightiest Chojin the world has ever known. Is it better than the first part? I would honestly say no. There's so much padding in what is actually available, and there's just so many characters that don't make any sense to be included. It's a very basic premise to get us to the meat and cheese matches that people actually want to read. And by the end, they're wrapping everything up with a neat bow, so Kinnikuman can go on to beat Super Phoenix, and 2011 can happen literally just a few short months after this series ended, which is just wild to me. And honestly, having been an Ultimate Muscle fan most of my life, getting to the end of this was honestly rewarding. I loved it. And again, while I can be critical of it now, it's not a bad series. It's a series that if you want people to revisit something from their childhood, you encourage them to check it out. And then, as they read it, they discover a broader world and see something even better, especially going into 2011. It does do an excellent job of bridging the gap from the original series to 2011 and showing you how Yude Tamago's writing style did grow. They were very experimental in Ultimate Muscle. I will at least commend them for that. The problem being, there was a lot of failed experiments. How do you create a second Suguru? Montaro did get better in the second part, but overall, was he still stronger than Kevin Mask? I don't think so. Kevin Mask absolutely stole the spotlight and became a fan favorite, understandable. But going through these parts, even if they weren't the best I've ever read, they absolutely reinforced my love of the franchise. And there we have it. That was all of Ultimate Muscle that is actually available at this time. Anything you think I was right on, wrong on? What was your favorite arc? Least favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked what you saw, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. We're out here. Ultimate Muscle at times felt like a fever dream, and while it absolutely helped Yude Tamago polish their craft before moving on to 2011, I think it's best that this series is just sorta left in the past. I mean, it's not like 2011 will reintroduce the Time Chojin, show chaos with this Kinnikuman Great Mask, and imply that the Ultimate Muscle timeline is going to collide with the 2011 one in any way or anything as the Chojin get ready to go up against the God of Time. That'd be weird! Yeah, I'm actually excited for this new 2011 arc, I'm not gonna lie. It's frankly why I knew I needed to make this video before I caught up on the rest of the 2011 arcs, which is still coming. I had to get this out, it was nagging me. But next, we'll get Omega Man's Amazing Friends, a battle with the gods, and the return of One Big Buddy. All in the race to the return of the Time Chojin, aka Kinnikuman Video Part 4. Anyway, that's going to do it for us here at the Lecture Hall, and if you like what you saw and want to support the channel, consider joining our Patreon or membership program today. $2 a month gets you special polls, posts, and even your name on this fancy list. Ooh! Thank you all so much for watching, and like always, stay strong, never let your inner burning strength be extinguished, and remember that you matter. Even if you just woke up today, I'm proud of you. A rising tide lifts all ships, and I can feel one hell of a wave a-comin'. Goodbye, everybody, and I'll see you all next time.